You're listening to Larry Fedoruk on News Talk 610 CKTB and online at 610CKTB.com.
At 610CKTV.com, I wrote about lettuce recently. Lettuce is useless. I was referencing, and I linked to an article about that by Tamar Haspel, a food and science writer, who put together some pretty cool facts about lettuce. I mean, I guess we all know it's pretty much water, but yeah, it's water, 95% water. And it's just a vehicle to transport refrigerated water from farm to table, according to Haspel. Also talking about lettuce being the top source of food waste among vegetables, leafy greens, really, and the chief culprit for foodborne illnesses. Ended up getting a very nice email from a former USDA contract organic inspector who talked about not just lettuce, but the organic growth movement and all of that. And I said, well, let's give her a call and have her as a guest. Former USDA contract organic inspector, Misha Popoff, is with us. Hello, Misha.
Hello, yeah, and I'm a he, by the way. But
yes.
No worries there.
You know what? Yeah. Because I was referring to, I thought Tamar was a he, so I was being so clear to make sure Tamar was a she that I lost up the other part of it, Misha. I apologize.
No worries. Yeah, and Tamar makes a great argument, and I'm really glad you picked up on it, Larry. Yeah, lettuce is the last thing that you need when when you have scarce farmland or anything. Now, we don't have scarce farmland. We have ample farmland here in North America. But yeah, let's call them the foodie crowd, the organic, vegan, I'm healthier than you crowd. Yeah, boy, lettuce is at the top of their list, and they reject meat. And that's just backwards. Meat, let's just put this in a nutshell. I mean, you can ask me whatever questions you want, but the main thrust of the email I sent you, Larry, was that meat is way easier on the environment than lettuce. And I think most people would find that shocking.
Well, it is a bit surprising at the least, because let me tell you, and I said in that blog, so much of our food production now, we weigh against what it's doing to our soil and our planet.
Yeah, and you'd think that the foodie crowd would be up on this. Basically, meat production, let's just look at beef. It's the best example. It has the lowest imprint on the environment. For the first year of a cow's life, it lives with its mother on the range. It doesn't matter if that's a certified organic cow or a free-range cow. All beef cattle live on the range. And that rangeland, we already tried this in the last century, Larry. We tried to tear that up down here in America to plant crops for human consumption. And that is agronomic suicide. That is, in a nutshell, what led to the Dust Bowl of the 1930s. That land, in other words, should stay as grassland. And a lot of environmentalists make a fuss about how cattle, they ruin the land by walking on it and pooping on it. None of that is true. A herd of 1,000 head of cattle have less impact on open rangeland than 10 acres of lettuce. And I am not kidding about that.
Okay, can you explain that a little further? Because one would think that if you got grassland and instead you just have fields of leafy vegetables, that it's all the same for the planet, for the soil, for everything.
Yeah, not at all. You see, what grass does, especially on rangeland, it's very poor land. Let's say this first. Most of our cropland in Europe, here in America, and in Canada, what used to be forest, and the forests were cut down, and that is very fertile soil. When you get out into the rangeland, like in Alberta, that land should never be broken up. Most of a grass, like 60% of it, Larry, is below ground. It's the roots. And what happens is the cattle come along, and the buffalo used to do this. We replaced the buffalo with cattle. The cattle come along, and they eat the top of the grass. And there's some animals, by the way, like sheep and horses, who will eat the top of the grass down so low that it risks killing it. But cattle, no, you're fine. Cattle never kill the grass. They only eat it down, so there's always a few inches left above ground, and that's all it takes for that grass to regenerate itself. So you're never disturbing the soil. That tuft of grass could get eaten, 100 times by cattle who keep coming back year after year to eat it. and the grass just keeps regenerating itself from its roots.
So you're saying, though, some of this land has been replaced. They've done experiments where they've tried to replace grassland with cropland.
Oh, yeah. That led to the Dust Bowl, and they learned their lesson. It's called marginal land, and it should stay as rangeland. So what the environmentalists did was they started, as I said earlier, they started sort of coming up with theories or scenarios where they could at least argue that cattle are harming this rangeland. And it's just not true. The cattle have literally zero impact. As I said, they have the same impact on rangeland that the buffalo had. Now, if you start growing crops on that land, well, you have to tear the land up and feed a crop in every year. Well, right away, whatever moisture is trapped in that soil, about 80% of it disappears. And if you don't get good rainfall, you're going to get a crop failure, followed by, as I said, a dust bowl. But let's go one step further. Let's say you don't just plant crops for human consumption. Let's say you plant leafy greens on that land. Well, wow, now you're really taxing the soil and taxing the environment, and you need about 10 times as much water per acre to grow leafy greens as you did to grow the crop for human consumption. And then just to go all the way back to the start, growing the crop for human consumption needs 10 times the rainfall that the rangeland needed when you just had cattle roaming on it. So by the time we get to lettuce, you're literally requiring 100 times more water to grow that lettuce and having 100 times more impact on the land than if you just let cows walk on it.
And to get back to the original blog about lettuce, we're not getting anything back or much back from it other than people love their salads. It's not like there's a lot of nutrition there or it can feed a lot of people. I mean, big head of lettuce, you take the water out, you got next to nothing, a few mouthfuls.
Yeah, that's why there was never a culture that lived on lettuce. I mean, you've got the Irish living off potatoes, you've got the Aztecs living off corn, and yeah, lettuce has always been a treat. Lettuce is like ice cream. It's meaningless in terms of your diet, and more importantly for the farmer, it's really, really hard agronomically to grow. And then one last piece to the puzzle, Larry. Let's say we're growing organic lettuce instead of regular conventional lettuce. There is a risk, and it's been documented through scientific experiments, that the fecal coliforms from composted manure can not only be on the surface of the lettuce, they can make their way right up through the cell structure into the lettuce. So no amount of washing will get rid of those fecal coliforms. Fecal coliforms result from improperly composted manure. Now, in conventional lettuce, they don't use any manure. They use synthetic fertilizer, and that's perfectly safe. But in organic, manure is sort of the order of the day. And if it's not done properly, it's really fraught with risk.
That's interesting. Is that kind of why you got out of the organic inspection business?
Yeah, in a nutshell, what I wanted to do, I mean, everything in life is risky, right? Getting in a car is risky. What I wanted to do as an inspector was test the crop, firstly, Larry, for fecal coliforms. And that's a $25 test. That is so cheap. Then, and then after that, of course, I wanted to test for synthetic pesticides, which are prohibited in organic production. And to make a long story short, the organic industry in Canada and the United States does no field testing, either for either of those things. And most people are, when they hear about organic, they think about, the pesticides, it's pesticide free. Well, no, the CDC of all places last year dug up a report from the Canadian Food Inspection Agency saying that 46% of all organic food sold in Canada tested positive for prohibited pesticides. But just to underline my concerns, yes, as an inspector, I was concerned about the illicit use or fraudulent use of pesticides. But more importantly, Larry, my first test would have been for fecal coliforms. Wow. Resulting from improperly composted manure.
Misha, fascinating. If somebody asks me about Misha Popoff, I will say he was a really good guest. I'll be very clear about that. And your book is called Is It Organic? And right. It's out there as well. Thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.
Anytime, Larry. Have a great day.
Misha Popoff, former USDA contract organic inspector, now a research associate for the Frontier Center for Public Policy, advisor for the Heartland Institute, and again, that book, Is It Organic?